Hello YouTube, my name is Jake. In this video, I'm going to share my opinion on why China cannot outcompete US, how US is managing to control its hegemony for the next century, and the opportunities that will follow after this conflict with US and China. US and China have been in a political conflict from the moment President Trump announced a trade war on China by imposing a 25% tariff on imports. On top of the trade war, the coronavirus pandemic has intensified the tension between US and China's relationship and is causing panic and fear in the market because of the uncertainties of the future. This overall tension was triggered politically when China climbed over 60% of US GDP, which could threaten the US reserve currency status. History has shown that from the early 20th century, US acted as world police by having wars with countries that went over 40% of overall US GDP. The first target was the Soviet Union in the 70s, second target was Japan in the 80s, and China is the US current target. The US was able to win the Cold War through finances by the Strategic Defense Initiative under President Ronald Reagan, which caused the Soviets to obtain massive debt from the nuclear arms race against the US. In addition to this, the US's influence on low oil prices in the Middle East caused critical financial damage to the Soviets. Likewise, US attempted to destroy Japan's economy through a trade war by devaluing the dollar against the yen to increase the US export, which is known as Plaza Accord. However, despite lowering the value of the dollar, the US failed to outcompete Japan and ironically accused Japan as a currency manipulator and increased the yen value by 50%, which puts Japan into 10 years long stagnation known as the lost decade. Since Japan's economy depends heavily on exports, increasing the yen value caused critical economic damage to Japan because other countries were able to sell more of their goods at a much cheaper price than Japanese products. Currently, we are seeing similar situations with the US and China by number 1, President Trump throwing a trade war on tariff. 2, a technology war by banning Huawei and TikTok and increasing the regulations in the semiconductor industry. And number 3, a financial war by threatening China on being cut out from the international payment system and forcing China to open up its financial markets directly to US and currently blaming China for the global economic downturn due to the recent coronavirus outbreak. With all of these conflicts, chaos, uncertainties, panic, and crisis, I believe that if you observe the situation rationally by focusing on the facts and evidence, this will give you new insights and opportunities on investing. Eagle versus Dragon, who will win and why? I believe that China cannot defeat US mainly because of the US's strong economy and military force, technology innovations, and its reserve currency status. Reserve currency is a currency that is held by different countries for international trade, international investments, and other global economic activities. To obtain the reserve currency status, the country must have a strong economy, powerful military force, and possess highly innovative technologies. History has shown that when the Dutch defeated the Spanish in 1581, Dutch guilder became the first world reserve currency. This led the Dutch Empire to financially prosper through innovations in the new ship technology that could travel globally for more trade and to build better weapons in order to create a strong military force. However, the Dutch failed to remain competitive against Britain due to its irresponsible monetary policy by incurring too much debt. This in which led Britain to attack the Dutch when they were politically divided and the military power was weakened, known as the Fourth Anglo-Dutch War. After the British defeated the Dutch, British pounds became the next reserve currency. Similarly, Britain focused on strong military force and technology innovation by creating the steam engine that brought massive wealth to Britain, known as the Industrial Revolution. However, heavy war expenses from World War I and II put Britain to incur substantial amounts of debt while the US was becoming more powerful economically, militarily, and technologically by developing a nuclear bomb. After World War II, the Bretton Woods Conference led U.S. allied countries to agree on using the U.S. dollar as a world reserve currency status by abandoning the gold standard. To be a world reserve currency, it requires a strong economy, powerful military force, and a highly innovative technology revolution. Based on the current trends in the global economy, politics, and technology, I believe that the US is still far much ahead than China, and here's why. First, when it comes to an economic standpoint, unlike China, US has the largest consumer market globally, meaning US does not depend on exports to increase its GDP, whereas China relies heavily on exports. Also, US holds the power to ban China's accessibility on the US dollar system in order to freeze China's global financial activities as well as to seize all China's overseas financial assets. In addition, US can delist or prohibit all Chinese companies to be publicly listed from the US stock exchanges that prevent China to collect US dollars. Furthermore, US is now the biggest oil producer, meaning it does not need to depend on other countries for energy, unlike China, who imports most of its oil from Iran in exchange for military weapons. By being the biggest oil producer, this gives the US a better vantage point to influence oil supplies or to manipulate the oil prices to hinder the economic activities in China. Secondly, the US currently has the strongest military force in the world with $610 billion US military budget and a highly advanced space technology. Having absolute control in space will ultimately allow total control of the ocean and land. Controlling the ocean will play a critical role in economic activities in global trade as well as military movements. Furthermore, President Trump has signed a law in late 2019 by establishing the Space Force to rapidly promote the space industry. Also, US is making technological breakthroughs in the reusable rocket technology that drastically reduces the cost of space launch to deliver satellites and other payloads to the space station. And I believe that this technology will make the US space industry far more advanced than any other country. Lastly, the fourth industrial revolution, which allows automation through AI, is currently changing and reshaping the way we do business around the world, the way we live, and how we interact with society. This overall trend is causing the US and other countries to invest in smart factories, which allows less dependencies on China to reduce the labor costs. Additionally, since AI will be driven by the software, creating the most powerful AI will require the most efficient computer programming language that is suited for AI tasks. However, most mainstream computer programming languages are all written in English, and it is already well established through the ecosystems, and it is deeply rooted in technologies that we use daily. It will be very difficult for China to create its own programming language written in Mandarin to be as powerful as the English written programming language. When President Trump banned Huawei, it forced Huawei to abandon Android and develop its own operating system called Harmony OS, which is still getting delayed. Also, semiconductor technology is also important to develop powerful AI, And US is increasing regulation on big US tech companies by requiring companies to obtain special licenses to export technology patent to China's largest semiconductor manufacturer. Furthermore, President Trump's recent ban on TikTok confirms that the US is already winning the tech war against China by forcing Chinese tech companies to give up its business to American companies. What does the overall US versus China hegemonic war means to investors? I believe that in the midst of chaos, fear, panic, and uncertainty, there are also opportunities for investors. Based on the current political, economic trends and technological revolution, I see a clear pattern for a new paradigm shift. A paradigm shift occurs when there's a significant change in the old concepts, approach, or underlying assumptions. We are seeing paradigm shifts in politics by first, number one, China challenging the US hegemony. Number two, new monetary policy by the Fed with the higher inflation rate and anchoring historically low interest rate. Number three, new highly innovative technology breakthroughs in space or rocket technology, renewable energy, electric cars, and self-driving technology. And breakthroughs in AI are allowing scientific research process to accelerate at a speed that has never been imagined before. When you look back in history, highly innovative companies went public during times like this, such as Apple and Microsoft in the 1980s during conflicts with Japan, and the innovation of the internet in the 1980s, which was released to the public in the 90s and created FANG stocks to go public in the early 2000s during the dot-com boom. And we are seeing the similar trends happening with a company like Tesla. Also, based on the overall trends that I explained, I believe that the US is winning the hegemony war against China and will remain as the world's most powerful country. As a result, many new highly innovative American companies will be listed and will dominate in the US stock market, which will give us new opportunities to find and invest the next FANG stocks, and this is why I will not bet against US. I have laid out my own opinions on why China cannot win the hegemony war against the US and what opportunities from this outcome will bring to investors in the US equity market by comparing through history and patterns on what has already happened. One of my favorite quotes is by Mark Twain: "History doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes." Because it gives you the wisdom and insight on how the events from the past can resemble the events of the present, and it also makes me think deeply about what I should be focusing on in order to prepare for the unknown future in times like this. I hope this video was helpful in understanding the current situation with US and China, and please leave a comment below and let me know what you think about this current issue. If you like this kind of video, please give it a like and consider subscribing. Thank you for watching.